Hello, everyone, and good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome to today's Orchestry Platform Live demo, where we will be going through all the lifecycle and provisioning features that Orchestry has to offer. Well, not all of them, but at least the vast majority of them as well. Thank you so much again for joining me. We have 45 minutes today. There's a lot to get through. I have a few slides before I jump in here, but we'll do a couple of slides. But the vast majority of this is actually going to be a demo in the product as well. Again, I always hate going to these types of webinars where someone promises you a demo and it's like 90% slides and 10 minutes of demo. So this is going to be the complete opposite. We're going to do 10% slides, 90% demo here. A little bit about myself. So my name is Michael Basarik. I am a former Microsoft SharePoint MVP. I'm also the CEO and the co-founder here of Orchestry. Lots of experience in Microsoft 365. Been fortunate enough to lead Orchestry for the last 5 years here. My claim to fame is I used to be a professional chef working at least 3 Michelin star restaurants in my career. And then afterwards, I got into technology, which I can tell you is far easier than becoming a chef. So if you're thinking about making the move from technology into cooking, don't, because it's not what it's portrayed like on TV. This is much easier. I know this might be a bit more frustrating, but it's much, much easier as well. A little bit about what Orchestry is. So Orchestry, we are Orchestry. We are a platform built on top of Microsoft 365. We have a whole range of capabilities and features. Today, we are just going to talk about the provisioning and the lifecycle management features, but there's a lot to Orchestry to help you around governance, adoption, co-pilot readiness, all of these features and all of these capabilities that we have. The reason that we created Orchestry is quite simple. We were speaking to customers such as yourselves, and we found there were some pretty common challenges and opportunities that customers were facing. So again, understanding your current state of your environment, simple things like trying to understand what teams and SharePoint sites that you have, are they being used? How much content is within them, who has access to what, for example, was really, really difficult. We also found a big lack of governance in a lot of organizations. Microsoft 365 is a huge platform, and there's governance features kind of spread throughout different products and different license SKUs. It can be really difficult as an admin or as an organization to know which governance feature belongs to which product and where I should implement this. So a lot of organizations don't really do that, or they implement governance by turning everything off, which isn't great either. Again, speaking to customers around security and compliance concerns, very much the case now, particularly with co-pilot readiness, making sure you have your content secure, making sure that you know who has access to what. So when people start using generative AI through Copilot or maybe through agents that you create, the people are only referencing the content that they should and not some old outdated content through there as well. And the last thing was around what to use when and sprawl. And then fits into our provisioning overview today. We find in a lot of organizations, people just create crap everywhere, right? People are creating teams. They've got hundreds of teams called tests. They create a SharePoint site, but it's really difficult for an end user to understand what to use when. So for example, let's say I'm new to Microsoft 365 and I want to run a project. Well, there's like 20 different ways for me to create a container for a project, right? Is it going to be a SharePoint site? Is it going to be a team with an associated SharePoint site, for instance? Is it going to be a OneDrive location? Is it going to be a loop file? All of these things as well. So again, what we've tried to do with Orchestry is really help with that what to use when story from a provisioning standpoint here as well. So best way to think about Orchestry, again, platform sits on top of Microsoft 365. Lots of capabilities and features. Today, we are going to be talking about provisioning and lifecycle management, of which there's archiving and a couple of different other features that we have. If you are interested in some of the other capabilities that we have, and there's a lot more than we have listed here, either come to any of our other demo sessions or come get in touch with us as well. And get engaged, right? So before we begin, if maybe people in the chat can maybe say where you're calling from today. I'm located in Vancouver, Canada here. It is summer here in Vancouver. That means it is raining. And that's entirely normal through here. If you ever been to Vancouver during summer, it rains a lot here. I don't sound Canadian. I know that. I'm originally from Australia, but I've been here in Canada for almost 20 years, so almost a Canadian here. But yeah, if you've got any questions or want to introduce yourself and where you're from, just let us know here as well. Okay, Southern California, much better weather than we have here, probably in New Hampshire as well. Okay, get in touch with us as well if you want to do all of that stuff. We've got a poll as well. You can fit that in. And again, for today's agenda, like I said, hundreds of slides. We're not going to do that. We're just going to get into a demo of Orchestry, folks. That's why you're here. So let me move over to our demo environment and let's rock and roll, folks. Now, hopefully you can see my screen. Just give me a thumbs up if you can. Oh, it's good, Candace, that it's raining over there as well. I don't feel as bad. So okay, perfect. We're good to go. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing that we really want to chat about, which is really the provisioning story around Orchestry and around Microsoft 365. So as you know, out of the box in Microsoft 365, people can go and create things wherever they want, right? They can go and create teams and teams and SharePoint sites in SharePoint and loop components wherever they like and everything else. That has a few challenges. The first real challenge around this is if you allow people to create these things, there's not much control that you can basically have from that creation process. So for instance, maybe you want to have an approval process. When someone goes and requests a team or a SharePoint site, you can't do that out of the box. Maybe you want to have some naming conventions applied. You can't do that out of the box either. And what we find is that leads to a lot of sprawl and duplication of content. I'm sure you've seen that in your environment, that people don't know what they're doing, so they're creating hundreds of teams, hundreds of SharePoint sites. They're creating them, maybe they're using them for a couple of days, and then they're never using them again. The other challenge is around templating. So as you know, if I go and create just a blank team out of the box here, so let's go and create a team, and we're going to call it what people do, Michael's team. Right? Terrible name, as you folks know, but we're going to do that and name our first channel. This drives me crazy. I don't know why you can't use general anymore. So let's use announcements here. That makes sense. Okay. So as a user, I'm going to go in, create a team here. And what I get is something pretty bare bones, right? I get a team, but then what I need to do is I need to add my own channels, right? I need to add my own apps through here. Of course, there's a SharePoint site associated with this as this as well. But the issue with that is also I have to go. Let's put this one in here. The issue with that, of course, is I have to go and kind of configure all of this stuff for me. So again, it's difficult for end users to be able to know if I'm managing a project, for example, what should I put in? What are the features available? This is where Orchestry comes. So Orchestry provisioning has two main capabilities. The first one is from a templating perspective. So what we're trying to do here is give you the ability to create really rich templates. Templates, some people call them blueprints, for example. But the idea with this is that let's say in your organization, you want to manage projects. Now, everyone does projects within organizations, so it's a pretty good use case. And you want to make sure that every time someone goes and creates a project, a team is going to be provisioned. This team is going to have a number of different channels, in this case, corresponding to various types of project activities, something about deliverables, a help and support area, which is really useful, maybe some reports that we have here, around the project timeline and everything else that Teams catches up here for me, and also tasks and timelines, right? So tasks and timelines are pretty important here as well. And in this case, what we've done is we want to use Planner out of the box. So we've created, a rough kind of project task list through here. The other thing that we might also want to have is also want to have our SharePoint site fully configured. So here we've created an out-of-the-box SharePoint site. We've configured this with a bunch of different web pages, web parts. All of this is out of the box here. There's a couple that come with Orchestry, which I'll talk about. One of them is what's called our workspace information web part. So I can see exactly, who has access to this and what's within this workspace. I've also got a couple of other web parts as well to show you things like team owners and team members. But essentially, I've configured this SharePoint site, right? I've got a home page. I've got maybe a status page for my project through here as well, which again shows maybe a risk register, which is a custom list here, and maybe some tasks. But again, this is difficult to do, right? If you're just a general end user, kind of the expectation is, well, a user's going to go and add a team. They're going to know how to add channels and configure web parts and drag all of that stuff. That never happens. It just never happens in real life. But with Orchestry, you can configure a team just like I've done here. You can configure a SharePoint site, and then we can make this a template that people can request, reuse, and then we're going to provision everything for them. So as I mentioned before, we have our team, we have all of our channels, we have all of our app, we've even configured our SharePoint site. But the other thing that we also allow you to do with Orchestry as part of your templates is not just structure, but content itself. So in my library here for my shared documents, I have some metadata that I've applied here: document status, the owner, the type, and the sensitivity. I've got some views here also, and I've also got content as well. So as part of Orchestry in your workspace templates, not only can you have the structure, but you can even have documents. So now we're going to make this into a workspace template really, really soon here within Orchestry. Every time someone goes and requests a project workspace, they get everything that you see here without them needing to do anything. Everything in Teams, everything in SharePoint, all of the documents, all of the metadata, everything ready to go for them. So you can enforce that consistency through them as well. Okay, so how do we make this into a template? Now, there's out-of-the-box ways you could do this. You might want to use site designs. You're probably going to have to write a hell of a lot of custom code. It's a pretty complex thing. With Orchestry, though, we make it simple. So I'm going to switch over here and go to the Orchestry app here. So again, you can just go to app.orchestry.com. There's a bunch of stuff on the left-hand side here, but we are going to look at templates. So we have a bunch of different templates that we've created. Let me just refresh the screen here. And again, with Orchestry, we don't just support teams. We support communication sites, people engaged communities, even team sites without groups. We've got all of that covered. So how do I make a template here? Well, the first thing that we want to do, let me go back here and go to another one here, because one's been provisioned. Let's go client project workspace here. So the first thing that I do is I have a bunch of options. So here we're going to call our team a client project, give it a little bit of a description through here as well. I can show you kind of what we're basing this on. This is going to be based on a Microsoft team through here. I can give the template image a really nice logo. So you'll see in the end user experience that users can actually see a really beautiful example of what that workspace looks like. And then to make something into a template within Orchestry to copy over that existing team, all I need to do is go and find that team. So I'm going to use the client project team here. So here's a team that we've created before, same one as you've shown. I can choose to copy everything over through here. That's it. I don't need to use any custom code. I don't need to do anything like that. But of course, we want to allow self-service, but we also want to add some additional governance rules to this as well. So as I move to the configuration tab, one of the things that Orchestry allows you to do is, if we are going to allow people to request teams and SharePoint sites, we want to give them that ability, but we also want to introduce some additional guardrails. Now, what might some of those guardrails be? Well, the first thing is I can get them to choose from a sensitivity label. Really important, again, if you're looking to get ready for Copilot or just from the perspective of security. Purview sensitivity labels are super useful. Again, with Orchestra, we go a little bit of a step further. You can enforce a sensitivity label for a particular workspace. So we can say that for our client project, it's always going to have an external label, or you can allow users to choose from a series of sensitivity labels, but also to be able to to only choose from a subset of labels as well. Again, out of the box, if you've got 5 labels, everyone's going to see those. It can be confusing for your end users. We can also default a permission type. We can have a minimum number of owners and a minimum number of members. Minimum number of owners, incredibly useful. So right at the point when someone is provisioning something, they need to have 2 owners. So the reason for that is otherwise you get into the state where it's like ownerless teams and ownerless SharePoint sites, and that drives people crazy. Lots of other options here as well, but a couple of things I want to point out. The first is around approval processes. So again, within Orchestry, you can assign approval processes to different types of templates. Now, you might want to have some templates that don't require approvals and some that do. We can support you with that as well. And you can have different approval processes through here. Really quick and easy to set up. And for our projects, we've set up a simple approval process to say, every time someone goes and requests a project, it has to be approved by the PMO and by IT. And of course, you can have security groups here and all of that sort of stuff as well through here. The other thing that we also want to do is when someone goes and requests a workspace through here, we also want to have a naming policy applied. Now, the reason that we want to have a naming policy applied through here is unless your organization is different than every other company we've ever worked at, people are terrible at naming teams and SharePoint sites, terrible, right? So we need to help them be able to do that. So what we can do with Orchestry is when someone goes and requests a project workspace or requests a workspace, we are going to capture some additional information. We call this metadata. Now, you can create your own metadata through here. So when someone requests a workspace, which could be a team, a SharePoint site, or a group, you could ask them maybe for the location or the division or the customer or the department or for the project number, whatever you like. Then we can take that information that the user has entered and make that as part of a naming policy. Again, tons of flexibility within Orchestry that you can have different naming policies for different types of templates. So you can be very complex, so you can keep it simple. But we're going to say that every project that we have within our organization, we are going to enforce a character limit here so people don't have really long names. And we're going to prepend every project with PRJ, then the location value, then the division value, and then the name of the team and the actual SharePoint site itself. So again, you can give your users governance documentation and tell them to do this. They'll never do it. Get them to go through Orchestry. They're always going to do that as well. Okay, so I've set up these templates, right? We have a bunch of them here that we can see. What does this look like from the end user perspective? Well, from the end user perspective, I simply go to the Orchestry app that's been deployed into my environment, pinned onto my Teams rail through here, and I see a series of workspace templates that I have available. Now, again, these are just examples. You can create whatever you like, but this is a much different experience for end users. What we find is by asking the user what are they trying to do or what are their outcomes is the best way. Rather than asking them, do you need a team or a SharePoint site, asking them, hey, are you trying to do an internal project? Or maybe work on some documentation, or maybe work with the department, or even onboard an employee, for instance. Asking them what they want to do makes it much easier. In this case, we want to work on an internal project together. So I'm going to click on this and click on continue. The next step in the Orchestry provisioning experience is this ability for a user to customize their workspace. Now, what's really interesting about this is projects is a good example. You might have, a general kind of project workspace shape that you want with channels, with tabs and everything else. But maybe there's also some additional features, some other components that our users can add to this workspace in real time to make it theirs. So if I click on the features thing here we have a range of features that have been defined for my organization. So let's imagine I'm a project manager. I know we want to do a project together. I also need some way to manage risks. Well, hey, I've got a risk register feature that I can add through here. Now, again, I won't go into the details for this, but you can create as many features as you like. And a feature can be anything. It could be a list, a library, a web part, all of that sort of stuff is available. But the whole idea of abstracting that complexity for your end users and giving them these predefined components, again, is a really, really powerful approach. Next thing we got to do is the most dangerous part, is putting the name of the workspace. So here, remember, we're asking that metadata. So I'm going to click on Africa for location and division for accounting through here and click on next. And notice that the name of my workspace is already partially filled in. As soon as I start typing something in, it actually puts in the name and the group and everything else for me. Again, dependent on this metadata. The other thing that we also do with Orchestry to stop sprawl and duplication before it happens is to say, hey, you're trying to request something that looks like this. You already have access to a bunch of teams that kind of look similar to what you're trying to request. So we're trying to stop that sprawl even before a user goes and requests a workspace and then a week later finds that there's something else available. The other thing that we also do, unlike M365, is we won't allow you to create a team or a SharePoint site if something with the same name already exists, right? So again, I can go into Teams and create 500 teams called Pilot. We don't think that makes much sense, so you can turn that off within Orchestry and not allow people to do that. So here we're going to call it Pilot Demo. Let's go 2025 here. And again, I'm going to change the location here to North America and change it to finance. Notice that the name of the group and the name of the team is automatically defined. Again, these are all based on our naming conventions. Users don't have to know. They just need to use Orchestry, and it's nice and simple and easy for them. Next thing, we got to put in our permissions. Now, again, there's lots of governance happening here. It's going to be private by default. That's stamped into the template itself. And I'm also making sure I have at least 2 owners and at least 2 members. Again, really useful, particularly the two owners thing, because otherwise you get someone like me going and creating 50 teams called Michael's Lunch Test, and that's kind of pointless. But again, you can control, again, all of these components through here. Next, I click on Continue. Here's my request page that a user can see. And then again, we can click on that and we can submit this request through here. Now, you have to suspend your disbelief because I'm playing every single role within this demo through here. Not only the person doing the requesting, but doing the approvals as well. But here what we can see that this is our request that we've just put in through here also. If I go back now to Orchestry Management and go to the home, we can see that a request has been put into here. I can click into this request. So I'm not only the requester, but let's imagine that I'm the approver as well. I can see that an approval has come through. I can see exactly what the person requested, right? The owners, the members. I can even edit this because I'm an approver. Maybe I need to add some additional owners or remove some members or whatever else I need to do. But essentially, I'm good with this. I'm going to click on Approve. Everything is going to be tracked here through Orchestry also, and then we'll start that provisioning process for you. So in a second, this is going to change from ready to go to provisioning. And what we're going to do is provision that entire workspace for you, right? So everything in Teams, everything in SharePoint, all of the lists, all of the libraries, essentially everything that an organization or a user may need. And the great thing around this is, again, if we go back to requesting another workspace, it gives you that ability to centralize what you want users to create when, and to provide that structure, because it's so powerful to have, you know, a project workspace which has everything for users already built out without the need for doing any custom code. But it's also powerful from the end user perspective, because now they know if they need a project, they can quickly go in and create one through here. Okay, I'm going to stop there for just a moment. If anyone has any questions in the meeting chat, let me know, or any feedback. I'm going to grab a quick drink of water. And we'll keep going here in just one moment. So if you have any questions, let us know. And if you like that feature, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down here. All right. So we've talked about provisioning. So again, great way to be able to control that kind of creation of teams and creation of SharePoint sites. But the other thing is around lifecycle management. Well, you know, this is great, but I might have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 teams and SharePoint sites already in my environment. How can I understand what I have, and how can I then add lifecycle to this as well? So this is the other part of our demo. And I told you there's a lot in Orchestry, but this is a pretty neat piece. The first part that we have around lifecycle management is around reporting. So the first entry point to this is what's called our workspace dashboard. From here, I can see all of the workspaces that I have in my environment, all of my teams, team sites, communication sites, Viva Engage, communities, all of that sort of stuff as well through here. The other thing that we also do is we tell you what's actually being used in your environment and what isn't. And that's a really important thing because most of you, I would say, have got a bunch of teams and SharePoint sites that people created and they've never actually used. Now that's just the dashboard. Let me click into here and show you some of the beautiful reports that we have here to really help you understand what you have in your environment. So here what I've done, I've checked all of my workspaces. We have a number of really powerful capabilities that we have through here. So if I click on reports, let's say that I'm only interested in the workspaces which maybe are stale, right? Super useful information. So we define stale workspaces as either having no content or they've never been used. Look at this powerful list, right? Here we have a workspace. It's been inactive for more than 322 days. I can see when it was created, the last time that it was used, the date inactive, the workspace space usage. And on the right here, we have what we call our Orchestry insights. Think of insights as additional information. We're kind of helping you understand what is within this workspace. So this workspace, it's never been used. It's got no content. It's got no sensitivity label. It's memberless, right? It's got it's inactive. There's no Orchestry tab, all of that sort of stuff as well through here. So really, really useful insights, right? We kind of think of insights as additional intelligence that we can add to help you make decisions. I wish you could say it was driven by AI, because I know everyone wants to AI everything. It's not. It's just driven by a bunch of rules that we apply that we know that people are interested in. What other types of reports can I see? Well, maybe I want to go see all of the inactive workspaces, right? Again, all of the teams and SharePoint sites that haven't been used for days, months, weeks, or potentially years. Maybe I want to look at all of my workspaces, but I'm interested in which are the riskiest. This is another really powerful feature of Orchestry, where we introduce the concept of a risk rating based on 20 different criteria to help you understand exactly, if you're doing something like a Copilot readiness engagement and you've got 10,000 workspaces, we're not going to do all 10,000 at once. Let's concentrate on the riskiest ones. We're going to help you identify those ones through here as well. A couple of other reports which I want to show you really, really quickly here. Sharing links. Really popular thing from a permissions perspective. Also, again, this is a really powerful capability that we have within Orchestry. We're not just going to show you the sharing links that were created in the last 20 days. You can go into Orchestry and see the sharing links created on any workspace, regardless of the time frame through here. Super powerful feature. You can filter these. So I want to see all of the sharing links, which is of a file that maybe was created by, actually, let's see, a deleted creator, right? Have we created anything that someone's been deleted by? No. Let's say all of the files where a sharing link has been created within the last, let's say, year, right? Super powerful capabilities through here. The big difference, though, like the rest of Orchestry, if you use some other tools, is you can only see the sharing links. Well, with Orchestry, I can even go in and start deleting these as well through here, which is really, really powerful to help you clean these items up. Or we can use our amazing smart actions here to instantly help you resolve these sharing links. So if you're doing something like a Copilot readiness engagement, sharing links is a huge challenge from an oversharing perspective. These smart actions, again, it's some intelligence we put on top of it. So we suggest that, hey, for this workspace, you got 50 anonymous links you should delete, 26 org links, and you got 5 links that have never been used. So you should delete those as well through here. Okay. Now, lots of good reports through here, but let's imagine that you've put in Orchestry into your environment and you're like, okay, let's have a look at the content within here. So let's click on the workspace content insight. I can see exactly how many documents I have. What I'm really interested in is all of the workspaces, which are teams, which are, let's say, inactive through here as well, right? And just notice how quick and beautiful that experience is through here. So here we have a bunch of workspaces which we've classified as inactive. And I got 589 of these. What I need to do is I need to add some lifecycle management to this. I need to go ask the owners, hey, do you still need this or not? And if they don't need it, I need to perform some sort of archival operation. So whereas provisioning is at the start of the kind of process, the lifecycle management in Orchestry can come at the end. So how do we do that? Luckily, we've got you covered with that as well. So we have a number of different policies that we can apply, but the one which is the most powerful is what's called an archival policy. Think of an archival policy as a way for you to add lifecycle management to your content within Microsoft 365. In this case, what we say is, listen, we want to create a policy that we're going to allow users to create teams. But if we find a team that hasn't been used for more than 180 days, we're going to contact the owners and get an approval for what we call is an in-place archive. And I'll talk about what that is here in just a moment. But let me click into here. We've already created this policy. So this is just going to apply to teams. We're going to say for any team that's, again, older than 180 days, again, lots of options through here. The way that we want this policy to execute is we want to get an approval from the owners. Now, there's lots of options here within Orchestry. Maybe you just want to notify the owners. You don't want to get feedback from them. But most of the time, if you're going to archive stuff, you kind of want to get your content owners involved because, hey, let's let them make the decision around this. So we're going to get an approval. The stakeholders are going to be the workspace owners. Again, maybe it's the members, maybe it's specific users as well, if you want like a centralized group of people to be able to go through that. But we're going to say the owners. We've got our own custom notification text through here, which is really useful. And the other thing which I really like is we've got a notification cadence. So as you know, no one answers the first of anything. People are just like that. So we're not just going to ask the owners once, we're going to ask them once a day and try for 5 amount of times. And of course I can change this if I like, but a huge amount of time saving here because Orchestry is going to go out, contact those owners, ask them, do you want to archive this? And when it does archive, we're going to perform a series of steps. And of course, once you've got this set up, you don't need to do anything, right? Orchestry is going to monitor all of the content every night and fire these policies as they trigger. The other big thing is around how we archive content in Microsoft 365. Now, there's a couple of ways to archive content. And again, it gets really confusing in M365 because we can archive content by archiving it directly from Teams, using the Teams archive function. Now we have something called the Microsoft 365 archive. We can do that. We can do that as well. We can make a SharePoint site read-only, or we can delete the content as it were. What we thought, though, when we spoke to customers and what we've developed is people want to have a little bit more granularity in terms of how you archive content and the types of actions that you do when you do an archival. So with Orchestry, we've got 2 ways and over 20 actions that you can do as part of an archival. The first one is what's called an archive in place. So in this case, we've got all of our teams. Any team that hasn't been used for 180 days, we want to archive the team, we want to perform a series of actions on it, but we want to keep the team and the group where it is. The other way is we can also archive it centrally. So the other thing that Orchestry allows you to do as part of an archive was to move it to a central location. This can be extremely useful in, for instance, if we keep talking about our projects, because imagine that after a project is done, what we do is we archive all of our projects to a single location. We call this our project archives. Again, this is a SharePoint site here within your same environment, but Orchestry can archive all of these and we'll even move things over like private channels, for instance, if there's any content in there, all of your lists as well, if you've got that. But the best thing is we'll even bring over all of your documents as well as part of that move and have the metadata through here. The other type of archival, though, which we're going to do is an archive in place. So we want to keep the team, we want to keep the group where it is, but we want to perform a series of actions as part of that archival. But what might those actions be? Well, it turns out there's a lot of things you want to do when you archive something in Microsoft 365 that no one will ever do manually, and writing a PowerShell script to do it will be super painful. So we have a number of different options. One of the things is because it's a team, we can set the team status to archive. So that's really useful. We can also export all of the channel posts to Excel. Again, really useful from a compliance perspective through here. On the SharePoint side, we've got options that maybe we want to associate that SharePoint site to a hub, for instance, through here. Or maybe what we want to do is set the site to read only, or if you're getting ready for Copilot, you can even remove the site from search and Copilot processing through here. We want people to know that this site has been archived. So a great way to do that is to change the name. So we can do that as part of this automated process as well, where we'll put archived in front and the date as well through here. But there's two things which I know our customers love. The first is around reducing your storage footprint in SharePoint. And one of the ways we do that is when someone goes and archives a piece of content or runs an archival process, we can say, well, as part of that archival, what we want to do is just archive the most current version, remove all of the previous versions of content. That's really powerful because, again, you probably don't need to keep 500 versions of all of your documents. You probably just need to keep the latest one. Well, we have that ability to do that through here also. The other piece is around security, which is really powerful. So as part of an archival, you might want to also remove access for guests or remove access for members or change ownership. Particularly around guests, this is so useful because we know that people go, create teams in SharePoint sites. Once they're done with them, they never think of them again through here. So again, what's going to happen is all of these guests retain access. All of these people retain access. You don't want to do that. We can automate that entire process here for you as well. Now, there's lots of other things that we can do here, but I want to show you what this looks like from an end user perspective. Now, really quickly, to be able to go and kind of add these policies on, really simple. I can go and add them individually. For instance, I can go and assign a policy for a workspace archival through here really simply. I can go and do this in bulk as well, right? So really simple and really easy to happen. But what does this look like? So every night, Orchestry is going to go look at all of your content, and if these policies are triggered, then these policies are going to fire through here, essentially. Once these policies fire, I'm an owner here. I'm going to get a notification directly through Teams. I'll get an email as well. And again, you can control how those things are sent and what they're sent to. But imagine the beauty of this. I'm an owner of a workspace. I get this beautiful notification. I have my own organizational text through here as well. It says this has been classified as inactive. Please review the associated workspace. I don't need this anymore. We provide you with some really nice information, how many days inactive it's been and how many owners and documents and storage and all of that sort of good stuff. I can say, well, I don't need this anymore. If I could type, click on archive, click on submit, and that's it. Now, imagine that you could do this for all of your workspaces and get your owners involved in this process, right? This is how it can be. This is how it can be really, really simple to be able to do that. So if you're getting ready for Copilot and you need to go and archive a bunch of content, you go and create it, create that policy within Orchestry, attach it to all of the various workspaces that you have. That policy is going to fire, and we can go through that cleanup process through there. Once this has changed status, it'll change status from pending to ready to archive through here. That's it, right? And of course, once you've set this up within Orchestry, this is all going to bubble in the background here as well. So again, really simple, really easy to do. These policies can be applied retroactively if you've got Teams and SharePoint sites and stuff created outside of Orchestry, or they can also be part of Orchestry templates as well. Got a question here. 1 second here. Can you change the way archives are named? Are you restricted name? No, you can. Great question here. So let's go back to this policy here, and hopefully this answers your question. But as part of the actions here, naming, you can change the name of the group, the team, or the SharePoint site. You can also change the URL if you want to as well, which is really interesting because you might want to change the URL for some reason, but you can add prefixes, you can add suffixes, and we've got a bunch of stuff here. So we've got metadata, which is basically the date formats, any other type of metadata that you have associated with this, and of course some static string things as well. But hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, you can add your own prefixes, suffixes, all of that sort of stuff. And I'm not sure what your name is because just your email is going up here, but it's a good question. But yeah, you make it as flexible as essentially possible that we can through here. Now, of course, once we've archived all of this stuff, this is great. If I go back to my Orchestry dashboard here, I can see now that we've attached this lifecycle management to this, we have full control and full visibility into all of the content in Microsoft 365. I can see everything that's active. I can see everything that's inactive. I can also see all of the workspaces that have a pending approval through here. So notice here my pending approval. There's 552 of these work spaces through here. And again, if I click onto this one called temp site, which is a horrible name for a workspace, by the way, I can see that this is pending approval through here. And what we do really nicely as well, I'll just show this because I think it's pretty neat. If I go to the history, I can see exactly the history of this workspace through here as well, right? So you can see kind of exactly when it was assigned, who it was set to, all of that sort of stuff as well through here as well. Okay. We didn't get to review policies. Maybe we'll do that at another time. But let's quickly go through what we talked about here within Orchestry. We started off around provisioning, right? So remember, from a provisioning standpoint, we can go create these templates, point Orchestry at them and make them available, and add all of our additional naming conventions and everything else that we need through here as well. So again, a great way to have that available. And then finally, we talked about lifecycle management. We touched a little bit about all the various reports that we have. We have a ton of really amazing reports that are going to help you understand what's going on here. And then we added archival policies to this. And remember, with these archival policies, you've got full control. They can be different types of policies for different types of things, and you can have as many as you essentially want as well through here, which is really, really useful. So maybe for teams, you treat project teams slightly different than maybe employee workspaces, right? Maybe they've got a different type of archival process around that. But the nice thing is, again, once this is all set up within Orchestry, you don't have to do anything. Because in the background, Orchestry is going to go, it's going to look at the inactivity through here. Every night, those notifications are going to fire to your owners or to your members, or who you've ever set up for that. And then if you go back to the dashboard, you're good. I can see everything that's active, everything that's inactive, everything that's pending approval, everything that's renewed. I can also see everything that's been archived. And what's really nice as well is we show you, here's all of your workspaces that have been archived. Here's the date that it was archived. If I click into one of these again, like I kind of showed you here, I can see the information in terms of, when it was archived, who it was archived by, and the action available through here. Okay, I'm going to go back to the deck here because we've only got a couple of minutes. Oh, Bree. Sorry, Bree. Great question. Is it possible to apply naming policies to workspaces created outside of Orchestry? No, it's not. Not at the moment. Basically, the naming policies can only be applied to content created through Orchestry currently. It's a good idea. It's a little bit tricky because we have to retroactively do it. But no, at the moment, you'd have to go through the Orchestry app. Hopefully that answers your question. Perfect. Okay, let me go back here. Let me go back to the slides, which I know are not as interesting as the demo. Told you, folks. Told you I wasn't going to lie to you. A couple of slides, demo, great questions, tremendous. Okay, couple more minutes left here. What about if I'm interested? Great news. So we have fully functional 28-day trials available of Orchestry, and it's a real trial. Every capability that we have within Orchestry is going to be available for you. If you are interested, excuse me, please let us know. Reach out to us through our contact form. Reach out to me directly. More than happy to get you started on your Orchestry journey. It's really neat because, again, there's a ton of other features which I didn't even go into. One thing we launched yesterday is a Copilot readiness dashboard, which is amazing because it shows you all of the things you need to do to get Copilot ready. Get a trial if you're interested. Put it into your environment. At least see the data and see where you're at. If you don't like Orchestry after 28 days, you can remove it. But you're going to love it. But again, we make that process as easy as possible. So feel free to reach out to us either at hello@orchestry.com or just go to the Orchestry website and put in a demo request here as well. Thank you, everyone. Was that useful for folks? Hopefully that gave you a little bit of an overview around the provisioning, around the lifecycle management features as well. Thank you so much for your questions. Again, if you have any questions or any interest, would love to make it happen. We are going to be doing more of these demos as well. And stay tuned. We have a huge release which we just released for Orchestry here, which has our Copilot readiness dashboard and our shared links reporting. There's going to be a webinar around that as well fairly soon. But thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you at some of our webinars or demos coming up. Thanks, everyone.